race fans. Hello, IMSA race fans. Hello, sports car and endurance fans. I'm John Hindhaugh, and it's a pleasure to be with you as we get ready for our Saturday race here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course just outside Lexington, Ohio. We've been really lucky with the weather today. We've had some fantastic racing already from the IMSA Mazda MX-5. We've had qualifying for the WeatherTech Sports Car Challenge, but now it's time for the two classes of the Michelin Pilot Challenge to take centre stage and to go racing for 2 hours on this tricky, technical and challenging circuit, which also gives us such great racing. In the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, Jeremy Shaw will be joining me in a moment or two's time, and Shea Adam will be our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. As I said, just over 2.25 miles, this 13 corner circuit in terms of the numbers there. But if you look at turn 3 after the keyhole, that's a bit of a kink. You don't really worry about that. Turn 10 coming off Thunder Valley, that's pretty quick. Turn 13 after the carousel, yeah, you straight line that as well. Nevertheless, the turns that are turns, the corners that need to be thought about, like the carousel, the keyhole, and down the hill, that downhill braking area to the right-hander at turn 4, they need to be thought about. They need to be dealt with, and they are passing opportunities. We'll see the action areas there, no doubt, today. The cars are already rolling. Remember, Mid-Ohio, very unusual in the fact that we start the clock as they go past the finish line, but the start line for the green is just after the kink at turn 3. So we'll see the cars line up side by side, 2 by 2, led by Ryan Hardwick for Wright Motorsports in the 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport. Further back, it will be Chris Miller in the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports Audi with the sequential gearbox. And talking to some of the guys who are running that sequential, including the Road Shagger guys who have run that for the first time relatively recently, that does give you a performance. It's about 7 or 8 kilos heavier than the DSG box, but the sequential box does let you shift quicker and punch out the corners faster, so there is a performance advantage. Other things to look out for, and there are plenty of Toyota and Lexus VIPs at Mid-Ohio, sort of guerrilla marketing their friendly rivals at Honda and Acura. 2 Toyota Gazoo Racing Supras this weekend, Jeremy Shaw, and lovely to see 2 of those cars in action this weekend.
Yeah, great looking cars, aren't they? And a big contingent here from Toyota on hand this weekend to cheer on those 2 cars this weekend. We've seen one for the Costa Rican Javier Quiros for the first couple of races, but this is the first time out for the second car, with Anton Diaz Pereira switching across from the LAP Motorsports Mercedes. He ran the first couple of races, and he'll be co-driven by Scott Andrews, a very, very talented Australian driver, this afternoon.
Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Shea, we're not seeing the car leading the TCRs that we were expecting. What's happened there?
Well, TCR is a spec classification. You're not allowed to make any sort of changes to the cars. The Atlanta Speedworks crew have had these cars for a few years, and they decided that on the front splitter and the front wheel arches, there were pieces that were made out of Kevlar that they thought would be better made out of aluminum. They made identical looking pieces out of aluminum, put them on the car. Car got pole position with the fastest time. Went through tech, they found those pieces that were not made out of the spec classification, and they said, hey, we need you to put the Kevlar bits back on. That's how they come out of the factory. That's how the car should be raced.
Yeah, okay, so out of specification in terms of the manufacturer, whether there was a weight advantage or disadvantage is not what's at issue here. Whether there was a performance advantage or disadvantage, not what is at issue here, down to the fact that the materials were out of specification. Literally every nut and bolt are in a a specification, a homologation passport, if you will, for each of these cars, whether the TCRs or the GT4 cars. Now, the race has actually started while we were explaining that, because we've got across the start-finish line. So we're already counting down from the 2 hours, but we're not yet at green because of the unique nature of Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Ryan Hardwick will effectively become the pace car alongside him with the AWA McLaren. He's going to have to be a little bit careful. He's got Brynjolfsson with his best qualifying in the bright yellow Volt Aston Martin. We come to the green now, heading down towards turn 4, and we are racing for the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge here at Mid-Ohio. Down towards the first corner, and the pole man gets the first thing done in GT4, in GS as it's called here. Now the TCRs have to do exactly the same thing, and it's the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports car with the LA Honda World Racing McLaren right alongside it. But again, the pole man gets away through, coming into second place. That's Parker Chase in the Brian Herder Autosport with Kerbach and Jenny Hyundai Elantra and TCR. That's the number 98 car, slots into second position. So 2 clean starts, thank goodness, for the 2 parts of the field, Jeremy.
Indeed, clean starts, yeah, messy starts, I thought, but in terms of the fact they weren't really lined up very well. But, as you say, most importantly, they were clean. No incidents at all, which is unusual for here at Mid-Ohio. And once again, this split start for the 2 different categories have been brought back in again this year. I think it's a great move by IMSA, because there's always some shuffling around between the quicker TCR cars, which are quite a bit faster than the slower GS machines. So it makes for a cleaner start to the race. That's what we've got right now, and a great effort there. Great start by the Paul City by Arm.
Yeah, and particularly the start of the racing lap here, Jeremy, with that run through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is madness, and through the S's. The TCR cars are actually very, very quick indeed through there, and just by the function of the fact that they're front-wheel drive, all of them, the front tyres, the front Michelin tyres, are turning and putting the power down, so that driven wheel actually gets up to temperature and pressure much quicker on those cars. They're fast through the twisty bits, and what we didn't want to see here, and that's why they've split the 2 classes, we didn't want to see the TCR front runners getting caught up on the back of the GS field. Meantime, in that GS field, some positional changes there as the number 19 makes up some positions. That's the Van der Steur racing car. Rory Van der Steur started that particular blue and white machine, that Hyundai Veloster, as the front of the field sees a change of position into turn 1. That was a bold manoeuvre for the McLaren, right down the inside into turn 1. That's a big commitment corner, Jeremy.
Great move there by Chris Green, showing his experience here. Been out of racing for quite a while, as Chris Green, but he has a lot of history, driven all sorts of different cars over the years, and he is filling in this weekend for Ori Fidani in that number 13 AWA McLaren, and a great move there by the 37-year-old from Montreal, Quebec.
So new leader. Meantime, in the TCRs, it is Chris Miller in the Unitronic JDC car. That's the number 17. The Audi yellow and white car. Oh my goodness, how much is that evocative of the Works Audis when they ran in the HB colours down through the years in rallying and various other competitions. Just come to me that as he turns through turn 4 and over the top of the hill at turn 5. Parker Chase and Matt Lamara and Rory Van der Steur in 4th position after that overtaking manoeuvre. The white and bright yellow, bright orange number 27 trying to make a manoeuvre as well. That's another one of the Velosters a little bit further back down the field. That's the Copeland Motorsport car, and there's the first piece of almost inevitable contact in TCR. The 61 Roadshagger Racing Audi, now with the sequential gearbox, goes around, and well, Very good. You have to remember in a front-wheel drive car, Jeremy, and I know you've raced front-wheel drives in the past, you start getting sideways, you nail the throttle and steer the way you want to go. And that's exactly what was done there.
Yeah, absolutely
Well done,
right.
Gav.
And I think he ended up losing only a couple of positions, actually, but a very robust move there from the youngster Tyler Gonzalez. He'd been threatening to do that for the first 3 laps of this race, and over at turn 6, each of the last 2 laps, Gavin had kind of given him enough room, and that time he didn't. But Tyler stuck his nose in any case. Contact was made. See what race control might do about that one.
I think they might have a look at that. It's under review at the moment. Gavin Ernstone in the 61 Roadshagger Racing Audi with the sequential box, as I say now, didn't even drop the front wheels onto the grass. I think the left rear Michelin went onto the grass, but that was about all. Brilliant recovery by Gavin, who is loving his racing at the moment and is just getting better and better and better. Now the TCRs now coming through the field. Ted Giovanna staying out the way in the TGM Chevrolet Camaro GT4. That's number 64, the bright blue metallic car. And I wonder if he's got a problem at the moment. He's maybe looking at the left rear of that car. That didn't look too hot, but it might just have been him getting onto the dirt. And off goes the 71, the Urban Grid Rebel Rock Racing Camaro that was just ahead. Frank Depew has spun it just coming into the carousel at the end of the lap. He's facing the wrong direction, gets that car back on. So both of the bow ties, the Camaros in strife, and the TCRs going through. I'll take back what I said about Frank, about Ted. What I said earlier on. I just think he was being very noble indeed and respectful of the TCR battle. That's not his battle to race at the moment, Jeremy. He just wants to keep going around and try and stay on the lead lap overall. He doesn't need to be getting embroiled with the touring car drivers who are snapping at his tailpipes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, Ted's not as quick as these other guys. He's got a few years on them. Actually, in fact, talking of age, it's rather fun, actually. The 2 youngsters, we talked about Tyler Gonzalez sharing the number 27 car with Tyler Maxson. Those 2 have a combined age of 32.
What?
Well, yeah, 32 combined age. Yeah, there's 40 other drivers in this field older than that combined age. And dear old Ted, he's got, 2.5 times their combined age on him. So, he's doing a great job. He's trying to stay out of trouble as Ted Giovannis. He'll hand over that car later in the race to Owen Trinkler, who's been very, very quick in the top 5 in the earlier sessions this weekend.
Live and free on IMSARadio.com with sound and vision if you're outside the US. Good to have your company wherever you are. And a reminder that you can take us with you wherever you go. And now the leading TCR cars up and about to put a move on the Riley Motorsports Toyota Supra number 21. And again, trying to stay out the way. They go either side, or try to, coming out of the keyhole. And the leader, Chris Miller in the Unitronic, the yellow and white Audi, got in front of the Supra, but the Supra does have greater top speed, and that's going to make him vulnerable to a pass for the lead. The blue, white, grey and red number 19 Hyundai, the Rory van der Steur racing car, that's the Hyundai Veloster. That's been a great drive, and he's leading. And the new shape, the fastback shape, Elantra goes through as well. So that's the issue when we start getting the TCRs up with the GS cars. And the man who lost out there was the man that was leading TCR, down to 3rd in the Liqui Moly Audi.
Yeah, what a battle it is in TCR. I mean, the whole string of cars there. Gavin Ernstone, after that incident, on down in 11th position. But he's still only, I don't know, a couple or 3 seconds out of the lead in TCR right now. So it's just a fabulous battle all the way through that field with that new leader, Rory van der Steur, having started in the some way where he started 4th, I guess, but been a really fine charge in the early stages for the youngster from Chesapeake, Delaware.
So good battle for TCR. It does look like a World Touring Car race back there. It is absolutely extraordinary. Good use of the light flashing behind the Hyundai, which now leads, and that then is the Parker Chase driven Brian Herder Autosport car. Got through into the lead there in the Schmozzle. I'm not sure that Diaz-Pera really needs to be fighting the way he is there. I'm not sure he's doing himself or anybody else any favours, and indeed it's another position lost by Chris Miller, now down to 4th. On the other side of that, Gavin Ernstone's caught back up with these guys, and he is coming back through the field. The Fast MD car in there as well, as that machine comes through. The dark grey Audi is fighting away, and up in behind the various Hyundais that seem to be so quick. Elliot Honda World in there as well. Matt Lamara in the and the Atlanta Speedworks car as well. That's the blue and yellow Honda. But now that Supra is the cork in the bottle through the twisty bits, Jeremy.
Two of the Atlanta Speedworks car, one of them should have started on the pole, but as we heard from Shea Adam earlier on, didn't because of the unapproved modifications to that car. Scott Smithson is making his debut in the championship in the number 94 car for Atlanta Speedworks, and he did some. He only started. He went to his first track day only a couple of years ago, and went to a few high-performance driving academies with NASA. Bought himself a couple of fast road cars, and then decided he'd be better off going racing. So last year was his first season racing. Competed in the SRO TCR series, had 3 wins, finished 3rd in the points, and he's stepping into the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge this weekend. This is his debut, and he's done a really nice job in the early stages.
It is the very early stages of the feature race Saturday here at the Acura Sports Car Challenge presented by TLX Type S at Mid-Ohio. It is the Michelin Pilot Sports Car Challenge. Wherever you are in the world, good to have your company on RS2. And if you're outside the US, around the world in uninterrupted video as well. And this is already shaping up to be very interesting indeed. Let's go to Shea Adam for some updates from that early action. The race stewards have been busy. We'll take a VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report, Shea.
Well, first and foremost, the contact between Gavin Ernstone and now the leader, Rory van der Steur, a few laps ago. NFA, no further action from race control. Our lead car, the 13 AWA McLaren, currently being piloted by Chris Green. Well, that is second in the championship standings. Kuno Whitmer and Ori Fidani, near 50 points behind Bill Oberlin and Dylan McIvern coming into this race this weekend. Ori was unable to make it down to this race because he and his wife are expecting their first child. He's Canadian and didn't want there to be any chance of not being there for the birth. They have left Ori's name on the side of that McLaren, as well as a baby carriage sticker next to his name. So Ori is riding aboard the car with newborn, or soon-to-be newborn, baby Fidani.
Yeah, they need a baby on board sticker, don't they? That's
yeah, exactly.
Very good. Very nice from the team there. 15 minutes into the 2 hours. Here's how they stand. It is that Macca, that McLaren, that leads the field. McLaren Philadelphia will be absolutely delighted by that. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. So AWA by 5.5 seconds now as they head off into the distance from Wright Motorsport, and Ryan Hardwick in second position in the 788 Cayman. That's the number 16. Same number, same colour as the Porsche GT3 car that they run in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Really nice piece of branding, but of course engine in the middle. Oh, pit caller. I think that was the Team TGM car coming in. No, not pit caller. It's not the right part of the track. What was going on there behind then? Not sure at all, but Hardwick continues to run. And as I say, they run exactly the same colour scheme on their at 9:11. Really good return to racing for Ryan Hardwick, recovering from a nasty couple of shunts at Daytona. Through goes the Team TGM 46 in second. That's the best of the Camaros. Both of the other Camaros with early issues, but they are both running again. In TCR, Rory van der Steur by all of 0.3 of a second in the blue and white Hyundai. From the slightly different shape car, that's the more traditional four-door with the fastback. That's an Elantra. The second two, in fact, are Elantras, with Parker Chase and Harry Gottsacker in the 98 and 33, running in the N eggshell blue works colours with the red and blue flashes, darker blue flashes. That's your top three going into turn one right now. And then there's a little bit of a gap back to the LA Honda World Racing Civic, the number 73 in fourth position. Good opening. Like this, we've got good pace, best in the GS category for 27.9 at the front of the field by our leading McLaren. And it's Chris Miller who's recovering after being mugged, to be honest, early on in the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports Audi RS3. That's the number 17 yellow and white car, a 1:30.4, Jeremy, the fastest 2 laps in the class at the moment. How does that compare with lap record pace?
Yeah, lap record was set last year in the second of 2 races. We had 2 races here last year as make-ups for the calendar that was messed around so much. The lap record of 1:29.731, so it was still quite a way. We're about 3/4 of a second away from that in the early stages. That was Michael Lewis who set the fastest lap last year in TCR. The overall GS lap record also set last year by Alec Udell in the Mercedes at 1:27.3. Best lap so far has been at 27.9 by our race leader Chris Green.
An hour and 42 minutes still to go. What we haven't talked about, Jeremy, and we really should now while we get the opportunity, is strategy in terms of fuel strategy. I'll come back to that in a moment, because clearly anytime I want to try and talk about anything, things are going to kick off. And Russell Ward is having a look at the McLaren, the green and white McLaren of Sheena Monk as they come through turn 9. That was an audacious attempt by Russell Ward, and that pushes him back into the clutches of Dylan McAvern for Turner Motorsport in the 95 car. So this is 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th as well, with the McCann Racing Audi in red, white and black sitting just behind that. We'll come back to the TCR lead in just a moment. Strategy, GS, one stop for GS or one stop query for GS? Jeremy?
Oh, excuse me, 2 stops for GS and 1 query for TCR. That might be able to make it the end of one. It'll be very, very tight. But GS, there's a lot of yellow. There'll be 2 pit stops there for the GS contenders, and I expect the first one to be after the 45-minute cut-off in this race. Each driver has to compete a minimum of 45 minutes in this race before they're going to hand over to their co-drivers. What a battle this is in TCR.
Great battling. Nose to tail to nose to tail for the top 3 with the 3 Hyundais. 2 different shape of cars. The Veloster, of course, getting into TCR. Not exactly on a technicality. It is a 4-door car. It has a hatchback, but if you look at the left-hand side, it's only got 1 door, so you think, hang on, that's a 3-door car. But if you look at the right-hand side, it has 2 doors. 1 + 2 + 1 is 4 doors. The fastback Elantra, a little more conventional, shall we say, with 4 doors and a hatchback, and they're side by side coming down the hill into turn 4. But the leader, Van der Steur, the white and blue car, has the preferred inside line for turn 4, but that puts him on the outside over the top of the hill, and he's going to lose not 1 but 2 positions. Lovely driving by Parker Chase, who got there and was prepared to hang out on, at the start at least, of going into madness, the wrong side of the track. His teammate drops in Harry Gottsacker drops into third place, wasn't able to make the move as well, but that's fine racing, fine road course racing by Parker Chase, Jeremy.
It is, isn't it? And good respect there amongst the teammates, who quite rightly, of course. And it's certainly interesting. The Brian Herder Autosport team really got the handle now on these new for this year Hyundai Elantra Ns. David Brown, the new technical director at Brian Herder Autosport, massively experienced, of course. David in, well, you name it, but a lot of time in Formula One and some time in IndyCar as well. Taken over from John Ward, who another massively experienced technical director, who was for many years the man at Dan Gurney's All-American races in Southern California, designed all sorts of tremendous cars over the years. John finally retired, as much as he possibly can do, at least at the end of last season, although I'm sure he'll be listening in.
It's Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. So settle back, whatever you're doing, settle back. Get in for the long haul. We've got just under 100 minutes of racing still to come this Saturday evening, and the TCR battles are outstanding. Still watching what's going on at the front of the field, but quite honestly, Chris Green is pulling away in the number 13 McLaren from AWA, and he's got a sharp end of 9 seconds now over Ryan Hardwick, the pole sitter for Wright Motorsports in the 718 Porsche Cayman. He's got only half a second on the best of the Team TGM running cars. That's Hugh and Matt Plum who are driving that car. Hugh started the race in that Chevy Camaro GT4R. Side by side again for the lead. Van der Steur goes down the inside. That's happened just a few moments ago, and that was the lead being taken by the number 98 car.
They've been back and forth a couple of times over the last few laps, in fact, those two. And that battling, there was already number 73 car was right with Mike Lamara, but now Tyler Gonzalez, having escaped a penalty from an incident earlier with the car number 61, he's now hauled himself onto the tail of that battle for the lead. Now 5 cars in TCR, pretty much nose to tail.
Very much nose to tail, and indeed Rory van der Steur did get the lead back there, which is what slightly confused me. Thought we were seeing a carbon copy pass. It was in fact a replay of the original pass. Welcome to the guys new teams, were American Wheelman, the number 42 Mustang, Jack Rice Jr. and Nate Stacey. Well, two names that we both know, that we all know, but a new name for the team, at least there, Jeremy, for the number 42, and a variety of sponsors in that, but the red and black Mustang with the stars and stripes on the roof, battling at the moment with the Audi just ahead of it. And good to see Alex Papadopoulos, by the way, in the Fast MD Racing Audi R8, just outside the top 10 at 11, and Jack Rouse Jr. wants that position in that new team.
Yeah, great to see Jack back again in this series. This is obviously one of the, well, I presume that this is one of the core motorsports cars. Honestly, not being at the racetrack, don't know. It was a very late entry. There were no drivers even nominated in this American Wheelman entry up until just a day or two ago. So really wasn't able to do any homework, unfortunately. But it looks like one of the cars that Core Motorsports ran in the last couple of years. And good to see Jack back behind the wheel again. A lot of history in this championship. He's got 12 wins to his name. And, of course, Nate Stacey also has 6 wins to his name, including last year's championship. He's not making a full championship defence this season. He's missed the first couple of races. But great to see Nate, the youngster, still only 21 years of age, basically on a professional level. But good to see him back in this series, and particularly so for Jack Rouse Jr. as well.
Side by side action, AMG versus Audi down to turn 4, and the AMG is later on the brakes, and that was a nice move. That was I think that's the number 57, isn't it? Yes, it is. That's Bryce Ward having a decent battle there. Bryce, father of Russell, who is in 7th position in the other Winward Racing. That's the number 4 car at the moment. Bryce really enjoying his racing again. He's been threatening to hang up his racing boots, helmet and gloves for the last, well, probably year or so. But not a chance he's going to do that at the moment. Thoroughly enjoying himself. Meantime, the 2nd, 3rd and 4th cars are up behind the number 71. Now, that was the car that had the issue earlier on, spinning at the carousel for Frank Depew. He's had a lap put on him by the leader, so he should stay out of the way of this battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Through goes Ryan Hardwick in the Wright Motorsports Porsche 718 as they go through turns 4 and 5. Now, the 2nd car in that line of 4 is the 3rd place car. That's another Camaro, so very similar performance. And right in the wheel tracks, Adam Brynjolfsson, who's having a fabulous run in the Volt Racing with Archangel Aston Martin Vantage. That's the number 7 car. And this is advantage at the moment to Ryan Hardwick, because he made the pass and has made his escape from the 2 cars he was having the battle with, Jeremy.
Yeah, not exactly a team player there in terms of Chevrolet, but here's our race leader into the pit lane, and this is very, very early. 28 minutes gone in the race, so this means that Chris will stay aboard, I presume, here. This might just be a splash of fuel. Shea Adam with this VP Racing pit report.
Yep, it looks like fuel only. Now for the McLaren, they only have one center locking wheel nut, so they can change one tire at a time, but they aren't changing any tires for this AWA crew. They share a pit box with FAF because their Canadian roots go very, very deep, and they have FAF roots indeed, but it is fuel only for Chris Green. An interesting strategy that they're going to leave him in the car clearly for longer than the minimum time. They didn't check for anything, so they're not worried about a mechanical. No. That was a strategy call.
Yeah, agree with that. So that's going to give him potentially, another 40, possibly even 45 minutes. That's going to take him well into the second half of the race. The key thing there, Shea, is that the second driver has got to get into that. Kuno Whitmer's got to get into that to get his minimum drive time in. That's what they're going to have to look for.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to get a little bit messy. Now, the minimum drive time window opens in 11 and a half minutes, meaning that you can take out your first driver. But as you said, the window closes with 40 minutes to go. And time spent in the pit lane does not count towards any driver. So saying that you got in before the 40-minute mark elapsed doesn't necessarily mean your driver will get 40 minutes on track of track time.
I think, though, that what they've timed there, if he gets another 45 minutes, that'll be 45 minutes to go. And that should give Kuno his full 40 minutes at a minimum. And what they're going to be able to do is to go long, much longer than anybody else, and open up a strategy call there and potentially put a new set of Michelins on Kuno to run to the end of the race and run full rich. I think that's an interesting call when you're leading the race. But Jeremy, it's a bold call, and they're not doing what everybody else is doing. They're looking for their own strategy here.
Yeah, I love it. It makes a lot of sense to split the race up into 3 equal stints, I think, and particularly it's been all green so far. You know, if there is a full course caution now, they're still going to be in great shape because they've already made their stop. They've remained on the lead lap even with that pit stop. So when everybody else comes in, if there is a full course caution, they'll all pack up behind the safety car before they make their pit stops. Then when they do so, number 13 car will be back in the lead again. So nothing to lose there. Great strategy by that MIA team. And Chris Green, he resumed the race in the 16th position, but like I say, still comfortably on the lead lap. Oops, for Russell Ward. He's been struggling. He lost a couple. He ran as high as 5th early on, lost a couple of positions. And now he's had a spin at Was that turn
Turn
9?
9. Well, he had an incident at turn 9 last year, didn't he, when he was rather unceremoniously taken out. Am I misremembering that, Shea?
Yeah, other way around.
Scott Maxwell was involved.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's one way of putting it.
Yep.
Well, the windscreen wipers are still working on the number 4 car. So, and again, he's involved side-by-side contact there with the Turner machine, with which he was in close competition. That's Dylan McAvern in the 95 car, and the AMG Red, White and Blue First Horizon number 4 has come off the worst. He's dropped back down to 14th position, and if he can turn the wipers off, I think he'll be fine. There was a few bits and pieces. He's come out in front of the AWA McLaren, which has made a stop, so he's a full stop behind that car, and still that McLaren, the AWA McLaren, still the only car in GS to have made a quote-unquote scheduled stop. Now, meantime, in TCR, they're still beating each other with sticks. The front of the field is Rory van der Steur in the number 33, still leading from Harry Gottsacker now in second. He's got ahead of Parker Chase, his teammate, in third, so the 33 and the 98 have changed around. Matt Mara in the LA Honda World, number 73, is right up with them now, and Mike has closed down nicely in that FK7 TCR, and that has made it an absolute battle between the top 4, and closing in on them in 5th position in TCR is the Copeland Motorsports Hyundai Veloster N TCR. That's the number 27, and that car was started and is still being driven by Tyler Gonzalez. It's 2 Tylers in that. Tyler Maxon will jump in to that Copeland Motorsports car. That's the white car with the very orange colouring on the outside of that car.
But wait, John, there's more, because behind...
You sound like an infomercial. Order now, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, well, I mean, right behind, or not far behind Tyler Gonzalez, is Chris Miller too, who's got himself back in on the pace now. He had fallen back a few seconds. He's up now. He's within 3/4 of a second or so of that whole group that's battling for the lead in TCR, as Ryan Hardwick is all of a sudden pulled away from Hugh Plum. I don't know who's that.
Shea Adam.
Hugh had trouble getting around the Rebel Rock Chevy. Remember, they got caught up between the lap traffic there?
Yeah, good point. Well remembered. Hyundai. Then it's the Honda. Then it's another Hyundai. And then the recovering Chris Miller, as Jeremy has just said. And he's actually... Who's that in behind there? Ah, right, that is the TGM. A bright blue Camaro that's in behind there. Past the mass ranks of the crowd on the hill overlooking Madness at turns 4, 5, and then down the hill to 6 at the start of the S's. Thank you all for turning out to Mid-Ohio. You know we can't have a full crowd at the moment, but thank you for supporting into those of you who have turned up. Shea Adam has an update for us on the AWA McLaren in this VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report.
I love it when the people on the pit lane are listening to us, John. Thank you very much to Steve Bortolotti, who normally is on the FAF pit box. Well, he's still on the FAF pit box, but right now it is for the AWA McLaren. He said that they pitted to get Chris Green away from the TCR traffic. And if you watch the Dancing Ants map, John, you'll notice there's a lot of TCR traffic, and then there's the GS leader. Brilliant move.
Yeah, did it well. A little bit of a moment at the carousel for Gavin Ernston in the Road Shagger Audi, and that's cost him a little bit of real estate. He didn't touch the wall though, and that's going to drop him down outside the top 10. He was having a good race up until that point. He was in 7th position. Oh, he got hit. He was hit by Tyler Hagler in the number 77 car. Now, Taylor Hagler in that Herta Autosport Veloster. I think that is going to draw a penalty. Let's wait to see what race control have seen. They've probably got a much better view of that, but I'm not sure that the 77 car that Taylor shares with Michael Lewis has got off scot-free even without any penalty that might yet come from race control share.
Yeah, that's correct. I've just received word from the Brian Herta team that car will be pitting this lap by. There is damage that they need to repair. The car cannot continue.
Right, okay. Well, race control have more views of that than we had. We'll let them make the decision. Coming round to, where are we? We're coming close, next 4 minutes, so 3 or 4 laps, Jeremy, before minimum drive time will have been completed for both classes. And
I think it's 35 minutes here, Lon, tonight. It's actually 40 minutes.
Correct.
Is the minimum drive time. So just for that.
Just to let you know, by the way, the incident between the Turner Motorsport BMW and the Winwood number 4, inconclusive, therefore no action after the review from race control. Basically didn't have evidence enough one way or another, so they couldn't make a decision on that. So that has been allowed to stand, and exactly the same for the Roadshagger and Brian Herta TCR cars. Inconclusive again, so no action available to the race control, from race control. I think Gavin might be a bit more upset than anybody else over that, but we'll let that lie for a moment. I foolishly said they might have had more angles than us. Maybe they didn't, and maybe that's why they felt they couldn't make the call on that. But sometimes no call is the right call, as we've said many times. We want to see people racing, so long as it's done respectfully, of course. An hour and 22 on the nosy to go, and at the top of the shop, here's how it stands, with all kinds of action all the way down. So I have no doubt that something will happen while I'm doing this rundown. But let me tell you that Ryan Hardwick, who started on pole position, is now leading by 4.5 seconds from Hugh Plum for Team TGM's Camaro. That's 16 from 46 from Alan Brynjolfsson, still having a great run in the bright yellow, almost highlighter yellow, isn't it? Aston Martin Vantage for Volt Racing with Archangel. He's got 3.5 seconds on Sheena Monk in the McLaren. That is the Motorsport in action, the Mia car, in 4th position. Then Dylan McAvern, Turner Motorsports BMW, is another 2 seconds further back, and he's got 5 on the McCann Racing Audi. That is the number 8 car, and that was started by Michael McCann in TCR. Just absolutely bonkers back there, but it's brilliantly so. Rory van der Steur for Van der Steur Racing in the Hyundai Veloster leads. That's the number 19 white and blue car as they head through turn 1. It's a complete, 6-car gaggle of TCRs. Hyundai Veloster from Hyundai Elantra, Harry Gottsacker in second in the 33. Team car behind is the 98 of Parker Chase. Then Mike Lamara in the LA Honda World Civic, that's the 73 car. Then Copeland Motorsport just a little bit further back in the Veloster, Tyler Gonzalez. Then Chris Miller almost on the back of that again in the yellow and white Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsport Audi. And then it's about 6 seconds further back to Taylor Hagler in the surviving, but still not yet in the pits, 77. So maybe fighting their way through that problem. 40 minutes are now elapsed on the race clock. Adam?
Well, that makes sense. They were leaving Taylor out until that minimum drive time had elapsed so that they could bring her in, do the pit stop, fix the damage, and put Michael Lewis, the 2019 TCR champion, into the car all in one fell swoop.
We do like a plan that includes a swell foop, don't we, Jeremy? This is great stuff in TCR. TCR doing for touring car racing what GT3 and GT4 has done for GT racing. It's a global formula. It is manufacturer-led but customer-driven. And I love these cars. They are absolutely what I want to see racing.
Yeah, brilliant. Really, really good. And again, you know, relatively cost-effective, nice, reliable, fast cars.
GT4 kind of pace, $130,000, maybe a little bit more depending on your specification. Pretty much all the manufacturers are in the same price point because they know they have to be. They are a turnkey, bought from the factory with a factory chassis number racing car. Right, starting to see some pit stops now. In for the Urban Grid, number 71 Camaro. This is Rebel Rock Racing. The very distinctive blue and white helmet, Scottish blue and white helmet of Robin Liddell is ready to get into the car. He climbs in. Shea Adam, the stop's yours.
New tires for Robin Liddell. As lead pit official Johnny Knotts is actually watching on to make sure that this stop goes perfectly according to plan. Fuel tires, and you put in the Angry Scotsman, so that's going to be a good stop. But right ahead of them, the number 21 Toyota Supra, the next pit box up. It's their first race weekend, keep in mind. Now, Riley is a team that is very adept at doing pit stops, but for Anton Diaz-Pereira, this is his first time doing a pit stop in the Toyota. Now, it's actually blocking the
horrible pit stop for the
pace.
Toyota.
And a horrible release for the Chevy as well, as Liddell had to be pushed backwards, back into his box even further to be able to get out of the box. So that blocked everyone. But yes, horrible stop for the Toyota. Driver changes going on. Scott Andrews, the Australian, taking over aboard the 21.
Yeah, and the incoming driver getting it all wrong there, got in the wrong place. They couldn't get the airline on. They knew they weren't going to be able to change the tyres, so they had to move it. Then they pushed it too far back, right into the way of the Urban Grid Rebel Rock Camaro. Change for the lead in TCR. Hyundai leads. Hyundai. But this time it's an Elantra ahead of the Veloster. Meantime, we've had a spin towards the end of the lap for the number 88. And that is the VGMC racing car. It's now pointing in the right direction again, but a scary moment. Oh, and another one at the that's the keyhole, isn't it? And that was the Iglesias car first, and then another. I wonder if there's something on the road there that looked a bit awkward. Say again?
I think it was Mark Kwame who spun the second one, the 81 Hyundai for
Correct.
CB Motorsport.
And it was both at turn 2. My apologies. Not the first time I've confused the carousel to the keyhole, just from what we see here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Once again, we've seen a change for the lead, Jeremy, in TCR. Rory van der Steur refuses to give up. Every time he's passed, he's back in. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's tremendous racing, isn't it? And it must have been, I don't know whether Ryan Hardwick got himself in a big strife on that last lap, because all of a sudden he lost a fair bit of ground. He could just work his way through traffic, and because of that traffic, Alan Bryn-Jolson now in the pit lane to hand over to Trent Hindman. We know how fast Trent Hindman is.
Shea has the stop.
It's fuel and tires, and Trent Hindman, rightly as Jeremy said, climbing aboard that car. They are waiting for every last drop. Now, a couple of years ago, Volt Racing won this race based on fuel. So let's see if they decide to try that again, or if they let Trent run on full rich. That was with a different manufacturer back then. But I do have an update for you as well on the 77 TCR. Oh, the wheels were spinning on the jacks. That was before. Yep, the pit official saw it. That was Johnny Knotts. That is going to be a drive back down the pit lane for a drive-through penalty. That was caught right away. We do have another penalty, by the way. The 71 Rebel Rock Racing Camaro, more than the number of permitted crew over the wall on that one. That also is a drive-through.
So just a few moments ago, this bare knuckle fight, as I described it, for the TCR category. And we did get a pass for the lead at the keyhole, with the number 98 Parker Chase car going through, and then he lost it again further round the lap. And Van der Steur now defending at the keyhole with Parker Chase right there. And now, Jeremy, we've got half a dozen cars, because Chris Miller is on the back of that TCR leading quintet and makes it 6 up the maybe dirty half dozen, I'm not sure, but my goodness, this is entertainment, and they are absolutely all on the limit.
Great stuff, just a tremendous battle in there, and it's fantastic to watch. It really is. It's just a great racing going on there amongst these guys, and good respect too amongst these drivers. It's mainly Hyundais in that pack, certainly, but there's a Honda of Mike Lamara, and then tagging on the back is the Audi of Chris Miller as well, we know how fast that car is, because Mikey Taylor won the first race of the season. The number 17 Unitronic JDC car was looking good at Sebring as well, until they had a problem with it was actually the drive shaft bolts on that car came loose during the race. It was a really bizarre thing to happen. It actually had happened earlier in the weekend. They tightened it up, tightened everything up again. They thought they were in good shape, but it all went wrong again in a race. A really strange occurrence there for number 17 team. So they didn't get good points last time out at Sebring, looking to bounce back here.
It's Jeremy Shaw who's with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Battle for second in TCR as the number 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche comes in to the pit lane. Shea, you take the pit stop, I'll watch the TCRs.
Alrighty, for this pit stop, it is fuel, tires, and Jan Halen climbing aboard. So we were a little bit fearful of Robin Liddell getting into the Camaro. We were a little more fearful of Trent Hinman getting into the Aston Martin. We should be very fearful of Jan Halen in the Porsche, because he is always quick in these cars. It is every last drop of fuel going into the hood, the nose area of this Porsche. Driver change is complete, and they're working on the rear Michelins now, as also into the pit lane, the number 83 Audi. Alex Papadopoulos brought that in. James Vance will take it back out. Wright doing a perfect pit stop. They just got to drop the car off the air jacks, make sure it's not on anything that it shouldn't be. Ooh, windshield tear off for Jan Halen too, as he roars back out.
And Shea, that was the leader when it came in. Good job by Ryan Hardwick from pole position. Lost the lead, of course, with that early stop. But it came in the lead. It's dropped back towards Alan Brynjolfsson's car, the Volt Racing Aston Martin, the number 7. So that's Trent Hinman. So they've dropped down the field, and that's a significant pass then, because that is a pass, Jeremy, on the pit stop rotation for that number 7. But hang on a second, Shea. Trent is not going to live long ahead of that Wright car.
Trent Hinman owes us 2 drive-through penalties, the first of which was for speeding on the pit lane. We don't know if it was coming in or going out, but 7 kilometers over the limit. The second penalty was for wheel rotation on the jacks, and we also have wheel rotation on the jack penalty for car number 64. That car was started by Ted Giovannis, the Team TGM blue Camaro. It's taken back out by Owen Trinkler, but that needs to come back down the pits.
Yeah, and another penalty that I'm not sure you saw, Shea, and that is incident responsibility for the number 51. That is the Copeland Motorsport Mason Filippi car.
Yeah, AJ Musk is the one who's driving that car. The former professional snowboarder actually started it. He was doing a good job yesterday. He has already been down the pit lane to serve that penalty about 2 minutes ago. Has not yet come down the pit lane to do his first official stop, as the first TCR car to do the stop is in. This is the Road Shagger Racing Audi, the one that's been in the wars today. Hit a couple of times by a couple of different teams. They were looking at that right rear. They did do the driver change, but they're now examining the right rear. I think they're having trouble getting the tire off, John.
I don't think they were going to change it, Shea, until they looked at it and there's wheel damage on there. I think they were only doing the fronts on that car in terms of the regular service, but that car is going to get a new, at least right rear Michelin. Unusual mistake by Trent Hinman, putting the car into gear for the Volt Racing car, but seen straight away by, that is Johnny that's standing there, isn't that? Is Johnny Knotts that was standing in front. So not one but two drive-throughs. And now the 42 Mustang, the bright red number 42 Mustang has gone around. That's the American Wheelman car, and that's coming through the carousel at the end of the lap with 1 hour and 9 minutes to go. Now, can he get that restarted? Still Rory van der Steur leading TCR with the 2 Hyundai Elantras behind him, and sitting in there with a grandstand view at the moment. Mike Lamara has got the best view in the house. Great dive down the inside by Gottsacker in the 98 as he went to turn number 6 and takes the lead back again. But we know van der Steur won't take this lying down. About another 9 minutes, Jeremy, for the TCR cars. They will do half the race with one driver, half the race with another.
Yeah, that's the plan. Do it on one pit stop if they possibly can. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons we're seeing nobody pulling away in TCR, because they want to make sure they stretch their fuel. It's fairly close to be able to do it on one stop here, around about an hour or so. So yeah, you want to make sure you get beyond, if you can, the 1 hour mark, so that at the later stage of the race you can really go for it. And that's the fly in the ointment, number 61 team, the race leader. That was on pit lane. Time of 46.
If it wasn't,
yeah,
it should be, because there's a full course yellow coming with that number 42. And yeah, Hugh Plum's in, Dylan McAvan's gone through for Turner, Sheena Monk's gone through for Motorsport in Action. I suspect that because we can't see that 42 car getting underway under its own steam, that Mustang, I suspect we've got a full course yellow coming anytime soon. Shea?
It's out now, John. Full course yellow is waving on the timing screens for about the last 10 seconds as Plum Brother hands over to Plum Brother. And once again, Joe Vardy might have just pulled a magic trick. Joe
Vardy is the strategist on this TGM car, and this is for the stranded number 42. Jack Rice Jr. and Nate Stacey. Jack started the car for the American Wheelman team in the Ford Mustang GT4, and he got hit. Russell Ward hit him. And well, there's been some no calls because of inconclusive evidence. I think that was fairly conclusive, Jeremy, there.
Yeah, afraid so.
I think Russell's going to get a penalty. As you say, this is not one of his favourite tracks. He had an incident here last year, and he's had a couple of incidents here already.
Yeah, a great call, as Shea was saying, by Joe Vardy to bring that race leading car onto the pit lane. I'm surprised that some of the other contenders didn't do the same.
Me too. It was 3 laps or so, wasn't it? Was sitting there.
Yeah, but then again, you know, yeah, exactly right. But it was seconds after, I presume after, the car came onto the pit lane that the yellow came out, and Dylan McAvan now leads the race. Therefore, for Turner Motorsports, I'm surprised they didn't come in beforehand. And also, Dylan McAvan had just got past Sheena Monk on that lap, so Sheena will not lead a lap in car number 3. Instead, it will be the number 95 car that leads lap 35 with number 46, excuse me, into the pits.
24 seconds is the time from when Hugh Plum came into the pit lane to when the full course yellow came out. It was in an area of the track to driver's right at the exit of the carousel where he wasn't in danger of getting picked up by somebody. And you've got to give race control their due here, Jeremy. They gave everybody a chance to see that there, everybody a chance who wanted to pit, and only TGM took the opportunity. And I think at that point they said, hey guys, we can lead you to water, we can't make you pit. I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I mean, how many seconds was it before?
24.
24 seconds between the number 46 car coming into the pits and the yellow being called.
Yeah, absolutely that.
Okay.
Hugh Plum came in at 26 minutes and 5 seconds past the hour. The full course yellow came out at 29 seconds past the
Okay, well, yeah, there wouldn't have certainly a few of the cars behind him would have had an opportunity to come in. There were some fairly biggish gaps in there, but there was about 14 seconds from the number 95 and 3 back to number 8 car of Michael McCann, which was running in the 4th place, has just been overtaken by Chris Green, who's already made his first pit stop.
Hello to Neil Hudson, who is cheering car times. Hello, Neil. Loving the TCR battle here in the Michelin Pilot Challenge at Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. He says, means TCR is getting all the airtime from the GS cars. Why wouldn't you? It's absolutely outstanding. Neil, keep up the great work. Nice to know that you're tuned in to IMSA Radio, watching, I'm sure, as well, the coverage, as you have that available to you on IMSA.com. We will get, Jeremy, a bit of a pass around here, or a wave by here, won't we, for some of the TCR cars?
Yes, I think there's several of them that had made a stop and were able to stay on the lead lap, including Taylor Hagler in kind of a 70s. Oh no, she's been
waved round. Yeah, correct.
Exactly. And Brian Henderson and Scott Smithson in the 2 Atlanta Speedworks cars. Also AJ Muss, who made a stop a little while ago as well. So they'll all be able to haul back around again and back on the lead lap. And it was certainly good news for number 7 car, Trent Hindman. I think he was just able to get out, having served at least one of his penalties. I don't really served both of them before this caution period came out. So he's still on the lead lap, I think.
Let me find him on the timing and scoring monitor while Shea says.
Yes.
Yeah.
He served both of them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
On the lead lap then. Good work
massive.
By that team.
Yeah, well, and sometimes you have to take that. The incident involving Russell Ward in the number 4 AMG and the number 42 Jack Rouse Jr. Ford Mustang, what else would it be, Jack Rouse Jr., is under review. I suspect that's not going to end well for Russell. Shea, you've got an update on the number 77, that Taylor Hagler car.
Yeah, that's our TCR points leader, and that's why they didn't bring her down the pit lane any earlier on. They asked her if she could continue driving around with the damage. She said yes. So that's why that car has stayed out on the track, because they want as many points as they possibly can get. This caution played well into their hands and their strategy. I've just realized something a little bit not great there, John. At the first race of the season, we had Kyle Marcelli entered into a car, but he did not actually get to drive it before the car went out. If the Jack Rouse Jr. / Nate Stacey Ford Mustang does not get back out on track, that will mean that we will have gone 3 races this season without our defending GS champions turning a single lap as far as drivers are concerned.
No way.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Right, okay. The pits are open this time around for GS, so it will be the front of the field that gets the opportunity to come in first, and therefore it will be Dylan McAvern for Turner Motorsport who leads them in. And who's going to stay out? I would suspect, of course, that the TGM car will stay out. Yes, it does, and goes through. So Matt Plum's going to cycle through to the lead in that Chevy Camaro. Shea Adam has our VP Racing Fuel Pit report.
This should be a shorter pit stop for the 13 AWA McLaren. Chris Green getting out and Kuno Whitmer taking over. And this time they are changing all 4 of the Michelin tires on that car. But remember what I said, 1 center locking wheel nut means that they have to do it 1 wheel at a time. Chris Green, who's actually the GM for McLaren Toronto of FAP, so that's a little bit of where that connection comes in. We've got both of the BMWs into the pit lane as well. The 96 Turner Motorsport BMW car taken over by Robbie Foley, and the 95 taken over by Billy Oberlin. So that's going to be fun having them both out on track at the same time. Bill Oberlin, points leader coming into the race this weekend. It was a splash and dash from Trent Hindman, who not only regained the track position, but he got ahead of a lot of other cars. It was a shorter stop for the AWA McLaren. Next out and rolling on the pit lane, I believe that's the 96 for Robbie Foley with the white hood. Let's see, it might have been the 95 actually. It
was 95, yes.
95, yep, with the white hood. I should have known that. Next car off is a Mercedes. Was that the 57? Alec Udell taking over for Bryce Ward. Good stop for Windward.
Yeah, and that is a very good stop indeed for Trent Hindman. Where that will cycle him out, I'm just looking through. we were fairly sure that he was going to hold on to the lead lap despite his 2 drive-throughs. The car that's lost out, of course, is the American Wheelman number 42. That comes out of the pits, but that's lost quite a lot of ground because it was, well, standing still for such a long time. And that flat plane crank V8 sounds fantastic, but it's dropped away just a little bit. It's going to be Matt Plum who leads from Parker Chase in TCR, number 98 in second, but of course all the TCRs will come to the pit lane next, yeah?
I gave a little sigh of relief there as Nate Stacey is aboard the Wheelman Mustang, so that means that we do have one of our GS champions back in the series for at least this race. It's a good thing to see.
And 21, the Riley Motorsports Toyota Supra, that's the Scott Andrews and Antron Diaz Pereira car. That pit stop is under review. That's never a good thing, because normally if it's under review, somebody on pit lane has seen something they didn't like. The pits will be open this time around. Oh, now that's interesting, because one of the Hyundais stayed out. So which car was that stayed out? That was a car that had lost, I think, the lead lap. Say again, Jeremy, was that the Copeland?
I think that was probably the VGMC car, was it?
Was it the Copeland car?
No.
Was it not the Copeland Q1 car? Yeah. They had just stopped though, hadn't they?
No, wait a minute.
I think.
No, they're not.
Go on, Shea.
They're showing as being in the pit lane, so I'm confused. It was definitely a white and orange Hyundai, but in any case, we do have Hyundais into the pit lane. The 2 new body-shaped cars are in, getting full service. It's the 98 Parker Chase handing over to Ryan Norman, and the 33 Harry Gottsacker handing over to Canadian Mark Wilkins. It's been a very clean stop for them, fuel and front tires only, as well as for the 19. That's Dennis Dupont taking over from Roy Vanderster, the car that just insisted on leading all those laps out there. Fuel and tires for them as well. And also into the pit lane, the Audi of Chris Miller. He has handed over to Mikey Taylor. So the car that looks like it has rallying backgrounds looking to go out and keep it on the track.
And it is the 27 car that comes out first, which is now got Tyler Maxson behind the wheel of the Copeland Motorsport. I did think it was the other car that went around. I've got to be honest with you for that, but clearly I was mistook. That, as Shea said, is in the pit lane. It'll shake out in a moment. What I'm absolutely certain of is that in Joe Vardy we trust, because Matt Plum for Team TJM is going to come out of this with the 46 Chevrolet Camaro GT4R leading the motor race from, I think it will be, no, I know it's going to be James Vance in the Fast MD Racing. They've both made their stops and will try to make it to the end in 57 minutes time. The TCRs...
Oh, stop again, John.
Say again?
They'll have to stop again.
Well, we said that at Sebring, and the Rebel Rock Racing car did an hour and 2 minutes and an hour and 2 minutes for the 2 drivers.
Yeah, that was very curious.
So
they got a bit of a break, by the way, on the horsepower side of things for this week. The Chevrolets, which certainly probably won't help that fuel consumption side of things. A little bit more power. If they can do that without using a bit more fuel, I'll be massively impressed. Yeah, even more massively impressed.
Yeah, they have got a larger spinnaker this weekend to get them down the back straight. So 56 minutes to go, and as they come across the line now and the field resets, let me start with TCR because that was the last set of pit stops. So Tyler Maxson leads for Copeland Motorsport in the 27. That's the Hyundai Veloster NTCR. That's the white and orange car. Now, they were sitting in 4th or 5th when the yellow flag came out. So that's been a very good pit stop sequence for them. Parker Chase, that can't still be Parker Chase in that car, can it? They must have changed drivers in the 98. But that car, the number 98, is sitting in 2nd position. should have handed that over to Ryan Norman by now in that car. But let's assume that he has. Mark Wilkins has taken over the 33 from Harry Gottsacker, as we've got a few stragglers coming in the pits, which Shea will tell us about in a wee moment or two. Then it's the Van der Steur racing car that was at the sharp end of the field. This is the number 19 car, and it's Denis Dupont from Belgium who's behind the wheel of that car in 4th position. And Mikey Taylor for Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports, the yellow and white Audi. That's the 17 in 5th. And in 6th, that is the number 77, Michael Lewis, now driven another Hyundai Veloster ahead of the Honda Civics. So they've lost out a little bit. The LA Honda World Racing car, which was sitting in 4th on the way in, the number 73, with Mike Lamar, and Matt Pombo comes out a wee bit further down the field in 7th position. But ultimately, I suppose, Jeremy, you can see it, as they're all going to be packed up behind the safety car, just make a huge amount of difference. We're going to go back to green, and so Matt Plum has to bring the field around, doesn't get a great exit from turn 13. The Camaro getting a bit squirrely, and he weaves left and right down the start straight or the finish straight, to try and get some heat in the Michelin tyres. Got a lot of wheel spin coming out the final corner there, but he's held on to the lead. Everybody's moving around, trying to get some heat and pressure in the tyres. It's the Audi who's had the best restart for Fast MD Racing, and James Vance holds on to the inside line. Here comes the Wright Motorsport Porsche 718 Cayman. Jan Halen behind the wheel of that car, and Trent Hindman, I mean, honestly, could fall into a cesspit and come out smelling of roses. He's restarted in 4th, he's dropped to 5th with 2 drive-through penalties for that car, remember, and he's right in the battle now. Jeremy Shaw going side to side, coming down to turn 6. I think he might get the 4th position here with the AWA McLaren, but that car is fighting really hard, and that's Kuno Whitmer. He'll not give up that position too easily, and doesn't, stays in 4th at the moment. But what a break for the Volt Racing by Archangel, and what great heads-up strategy for them to realise what was going on and get those 2 drive-throughs taken before the safety car came out. Oh, and a spin. I'll get back to you in that for a moment. That is the number 54 that's gone around, the Michael Johnson racing car, and that is between turns 4 and 5 now, jumped or pushed by the look of it, and that hasn't refired as yet, but we stay under green. Going back to the Volt Racing car, Jeremy, fantastic strategy from those guys. They could have been out of it with 2 drive-throughs, and now they're battling for 4th, 3rd and 2nd.
They are, but talking about Kuno Whitmer there, he just motored past Aston Martin on the straight last time round. He's going to do the same, I think, to the Porsche this time around to head down the hill. McLaren looming large behind Jan Halen, pulls to the outside. He's going to try and make a move to the outside. No, he's not going to be able to pull that off, but that McLaren is seriously quick, and Kuno Whitmer is just carrying on the excellent work that Chris Green did earlier in this race.
Matt Plum trying to make a break at the front of the field. That again, fantastic strategy from Joe Vardy, the strategy veteran and genius on the box for Team TGM. The team had t-shirts in Joe Vardy We Trust, of course, a few years ago at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Some fairly robust driving going on in the TCR category coming out of the keyhole last lap around, and Matt Pombo being ushered gently onto the green stuff to the left-hand side of the track, and he's found himself down in 7th position there, behind now the top 5 Hyundais and the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports Audi. That's your top 6 at the moment, 5 Hyundais and an Audi. Tyler Maxton's just put in the fastest TCR lap of the race at a 1:30.179. Matt Plum out in front, but his lead has come down from 2 seconds to nothing at all, and there's a problem in the keyhole, and that problem, I'm afraid, if you're a BMW supporter, is for the Turner Motorsport BMW of Bill Oberlin. He gets back on somehow, but he's dropped way down. And that looked like he might have been helped as well. Got to say, I got to that one late because I was looking at the timing screen. Inside 50 minutes. What happened to Matt Plum? Because Haaland is right with him now. But Bill Oberlin, the big loser there, he was defending against Spencer Piggott. Piggott right up the inside, up on the curb, and just nudged him out. Oh, he'd be lucky if he doesn't have steering arm damage on the right-hand side there as well. And that, remember, is the championship leader. It's a late lunge from Spencer Piggott. Was he too far back?
They were side by side going into the corner, and Bill just squeezed him up onto the curb, which is kind of asking for trouble, really, isn't it?
It'll be looked at, I'm sure.
It will.
It will be looked at. Share some more penalties that have just been served.
We've had, for the Toyota, improperly positioned in the pit box. That is a drive-through for car number 21.
Isn't that the truth?
That's what race control was looking at. I don't think you had to look too hard. We had Indy Donchi down the pit lane in the number 4 Windward Mercedes. That was an improper merge blend line. Respect paying of sorts. The Bill Oberlin car, the championship leader, into the pit lane. Let's see what they look at when this car comes to a stop. Make sure that it's not damaged.
Right front steering. Yeah, I reckon that's right front steering, or right front fender on that car. And I think that's it. They're bringing out a new tyre shape, but will they get it back out again?
Well, they need to, because this car is a full season long championship contender. If you run out there and you finish right now at the bottom of the class, or go to the bottom of the lead lap, you're looking at 15th, bottom of class. You're talking about several fewer points, and this is a season-long battle, but they have seen something in the suspension that they didn't like. Turner going to work on this car. We did have a valid pit stop, though, John. James Vance brought in the Audi for Fast MD Racing, fuel only for that number 83 machine.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, I think that it was side-to-side contact, and that may be steering damage on the Turner Motorsport. The guys in race control are going to look at that. The team in race control will look at that. In TCR, Tyler Maxson leads for Copeland Motorsports from Brian Herter in second by 2 seconds now. So a good restart from the 27 car that crosses the line now. But Mikey Taylor has just gone through to the fastest lap, a 1:29.8 for the Audi in 5th position, Jeremy. And now Trenton Estep has just taken that, a 1:29.3. It's getting hot again in TCR.
Yeah, it is. We've seen how quick that sequential gearbox Audi is this season. I mean, the car was just rampant at Daytona, first time out for that car, where Mikey was telling me before the race he didn't think it was too well suited to Daytona, and they came from 2 laps down to win that race. Strategy, bit of luck, and great driving. It was a fast car, or a bad combination. But he's homing in now on this leading quartet in the TCR category.
Jeremy?
In the lead of the race, just very quickly, John, has just set the last 2 laps. He set the number 46 best lap of the race thus far. He's trying to hold on, and is doing so ahead of Jan Halen, Kuna Whitmer, and Trent Hinman, Porsche, McLaren, Aston Martin, absolutely tied together there in second, third, and fourth.
Yeah, I don't think Bill Oberlin is going back into the fight. He's been wiggling the steering wheel, and there's some lock on that, and it did turn when he moved the steering wheel, and the right-hand indicator is working. A rarity for a BMW, of course, but that is, I think, not going anywhere. And that is the championship leader in GS in big trouble there. That incident under review. Spencer Piggott on the inside of the corner with the Bill Oberlin BMW on the outside. We'll leave that to race control to sort out. Matt Plum has got back out to 9/10 of a second. Scott Andrews has come into the pits in the number 21, Shea Adam. That's the Riley Motorsports Toyota Supra. Oh, that'll be its drive-through, won't it, for the jaunty holiday parking in the pit lane. So they're serving that one now. So for TCR, we should have a run to the finish now, Jeremy, shouldn't we? They should easily be able to go full bonkers racing to the end of the race.
Yeah, it won't be super easy. It was an hour and 6 minutes to go when we took the green, so that caution was a little bit earlier than they would have liked, I would imagine. But it's still going to be. I think they'll probably be able to make it from there, but it will be tight.
And as far as
up into second place, by the way, Kuno Whitmer.
Yeah, who has just been carving his way through using the straight line speed of the McLaren. It looks, you know what, I have no problem with that. It looks like it should be fast because it's pressed down on the ground like two pieces of paper compared to some of the other cars. When you see it next to the Camaro and even the Aston Martin, which is, you know, hardly the least svelte of cars, but the McLaren looks about half the height of that. I know it's not quite that, but it should be quick in a straight line. It looks like it should be quick. Mid-engine car, of course, very nimble round the corners as well, but certainly the advantage of that car is when it gets close to another machine that it can drag up behind it.
And the Porsche Cayman, that's also very, very slippery on the straights as well. It's much narrower than the other cars. It gets pretty much dwarfed by most of them.
Yes, it's true.
And it's very, very quick, but even it can't hold a candle to the McLaren.
Matt Plum has just put in the fastest GS lap of the race with a 27.7, Jeremy. How do those lap times stack up?
Yeah, that's about 4 tenths away from Alec Udell's lap record, 27.79, his fastest lap of the race. Each of his last 4 laps has been quicker than the last one. And so Matt Plum here is using all of his experience. It's been a long time, but he's had a huge amount of success. He is the most successful driver in this championship. 23 wins to his name in 119 previous starts for Matt Plum.
Yeah, he's doing absolutely the right thing at the moment because he's slightly pulled out on Kuno Whitmer at the moment, and Kuno for the moment is being, I think, closed down on by Jan Halen and Trent Hinman just by eye. I'll check them the next time we get the update. In TCR, Tyler Maxson still leads by about 1.3 seconds. We've had 6 cars in 1.3 seconds before now. A bit further down the field, the number 19 car is the Van der Ster Racing machine. Now they were right up there at the sharp end of the field, and Donita Pont now is down in 11th position after the stop, so that's not been the best of restarts and opening laps for the number 19. That's the white, blue, grey and red Hyundai Veloster, just going through the far side of the circuit at the moment and through turn number 6.
And Matt Plum, by the way, talking about his 23 wins, the last win for Matt Plum, or the most recent win for Matt Plum, was 2017 at Circuit of the Americas, so a long, long time ago. He was out of this series for several years, but he's, and of course they didn't race last year either, but he's looking now to win race number 24 for Matt Plum.
Hello to Alan Prosser, who's joined us on IMSARadio.com on the live video stream. It's Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre with Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. 90.3 around the circuit on FM at Mid-Ohio and around the world on IMSARadio.com in sound and vision for those of you outside the US. If you need to move around or you are perhaps doing something that won't allow you to have your full attention on watching, then you can listen on RS2 also via IMSARadio.com. Just hit the listen live button. RS2, the 24/7 365 days of a year. plus the leap day, obviously, every 4 years, before she picks me up on that, is the home of IMSA Radio RS2. Always IMSA content on there. New fastest lap in GS has just gone to the car ban by Peregrine Audi, and that is a tremendous lap that's just been put in there by the number 93 car, and that at the moment is Tom Dyer, isn't it, behind the wheel of that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, hugely experienced Tom, and he's been a professional in the motorsports industry for many, many years, but hasn't really had many top-line rides alongside top-line drivers. But he's made a great career as a coach, and he is very accomplished, this Tom Dyer. This, of course, is the team that won this championship 2 years ago. Tom Dyer has been part of this organisation from the start as a driver coach and as a co-driver for some of the co-team sort of principals. The team principal is Steve Dynam, but the investors in the team include Samir Gandhi and Mark Siegel, who's driving the car with Tom Dyer this weekend. And Mark did a really nice first stint, got the car into contention, was able to make his pit stop, and now Tom Dyer has got the bit between his teeth. He's down in the 12th position at the moment, but as you say, John, the fastest car on the track.
Well, that'd be some slight joy for that team. Battle now is for second overall, because Kuno Whitmer is dropping steadily into the clutches of Jan Helen and Trent Hinman, and Matt Plum is setting a cracking pace at the head of the field. He's a roundabout or a tad quicker than Whitmer on the last few laps, and Whitmer's speed and pace has dropped off. I wonder if he put a little bit too much energy into the run in the early part of his stint, Jeremy, and he's now having to pay that penalty because he's got Jan Helen less than half a second behind him now, and that is a proper three-car battle for second place.
Yeah, I mean, running on that slightly different strategy, having made that off strategy pits up earlier in the race, you see a pass there between the two of the Hyundai Elantras, but he seemed to breeze past Jan Halen, but hasn't been able to pull away, has he, Kuno Whitmer? So Halen and Trent Hinman staying right with him. So Chevrolet, McLaren, Porsche, and Aston Martin all running very similar lap times at the front of the field.
At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch with us here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, good to have your company wherever you are around the world. Shea Adam is watching race control, and a few incidents for them to look at the moment.
They're busy right now with the replay machine, but they have gotten us a call back from the incident between the 54, that's the Michael Johnson racing car being driven by Steven Simpson, and the 81, which was Trenton Estep at the time for CB Motorsport. NFA, no further action, inconclusive once again for them, but they are investigating the Turner Motorsport and the Mia McLaren 95 and 3 incident, and that one we are still waiting for them to pass judgment on.
Okay. Inconclusive again. Basically, I'm suggesting, and I'll be corrected on this if I'm wrong, I'm suggesting that means it's a racing incident rather than they didn't have enough evidence, because they have the all-seeing eye from pretty much every angle that they can get. We're under 36 minutes still to go, and what now I suppose we're going to have to start thinking about is who's been out there for how long at the sharp end of the field. We had a 34 lap opening stint for some of the cars, 37 for others. 34 for Hugh Plum was all green because he came in before the yellow came out. Matt Plum, his brother, has done 18 laps, and as it stands we've got 22 to go, so he's not at the moment going to get it to the end of the race without a bit of a help. So that is what we've got to start looking at now, and that's what Team TGM, Jeremy, will be looking at right now, as how far into the race they go. I suppose they've just got to go as far as they can, haven't they?
I mean, I think that there was probably perhaps let me start again. They were fairly close, I'm sure, to needing a pit stop when they finally came in, and we'd already seen several cars make pit stops. They finally made when it went back to green. It was an hour. I'm pretty sure it was an hour and 6 minutes to go in this race.
Matt did at the start of his 5 laps under full course caution because they had pitted just before, so that means he's done now 14 green laps, whereas his bro did 34 green laps at the start of the race. I reckon that we've got about 21, 22 laps to go. Can't see it. The other guys, well, of course, they waited till the yellow, so they've got 37 in their first count. But for most of them, that includes at least a couple on the end of that before they came in of yellow, and a couple at the start of their current, what is a 16-lap stint for everybody from Jan Halen down over. And in fact, from Kuno Whitman down over, they've been out there for 16 laps, but they again had 2 laps at the beginning of that. So it's nip and tuck. I'm not sure at full green and at full pace whether anybody can get to the end, but we've said that before, and particularly where Camaros have been concerned. Step forward, Robin Liddell at Sebring, who made fuel from I have no clue what, just the power of positive thought, I think, as the leader goes down the inside at turn 1 of the number 65 Murillo Racing AMG. That's the copper and white coloured Mercedes Coupe. He's been very, very impressive as Matt at the front of the field. His lead at the line was 1.1 seconds. It's not that now because he's had a little bit of traffic, but now of course the chasing pack, Jeremy, have to go by the number 65 Murillo Racing car.
Yeah, and Brent Mosing, he's been around the sport a long time. I'm sure he'll, Tim Probert now, take over from Brent Mosing. He'll give him plenty of room. He does. Lets it all go through quite nicely there into turn 4, the end of the back straight. And so it's a battle resumed again. And I think the McLaren looks a little bit closer to the Chevrolet at this particular moment. As you say, with still over a half an hour remaining, a lot of battling to be done. You've got to look after the tyres. That Chevy, it's a big looking car, but it's always been relatively light on its tyres. It's quite remarkable for what looks like such a big car, how conservatively it uses its Michelin tyres. So Matt Plum, particularly of course with all his experience, he's, I think I said a little while ago, this is his 120th start. His brother Hugh is his 142nd start. So between the two of them, they know a little bit about this championship, don't they?
They certainly do. It's good news for that side of the team TGM hauler share, but not so much for the other side.
No, unfortunately, the 64 being driven by Owen Trinkler, that Chevy has gone behind the wall. We're not expecting to see it back out before the end of this race. All focus is being given to the 46. We also had the 19 Hyundai on the pit lane. Rory van der Stur did a fantastic job in that car in the opening stint. Dennis Dupont brought it on the pit lane. They looked in both the boot and under the hood. Thanks to Alyssa for passing along that information. The car is back out on the circuit now, but he has dropped way down the timing screens. And the other thing relevant from race control, they did make a call on the 95-3 incident. That's the Mia McLaren and the Turner Motorsport BMW. NFA, no further action.
Yeah, not inconclusive there. It says no action. Yeah, Denny Dupont, lack of pace. There's something is clearly not right with not right on that car after the restart. So clearly they're trying to find something out there. Copeland Motorsport then by 0.3 of a second in TCR through the kink at turn 3 and down towards the braking area at turn 4. That's the white and orange car. Down the inside, here comes the slightly bigger fastback Elantra. That's the 98, and that is Ryan Norman with Michael Lewis behind in the similar 77 car. No, excuse me, that's a Veloster that's in behind, but it's in the same colours. Oh, side by side, over the top at 7, and the lead has changed. What a great piece of driving there by Ryan Norman. Going over the brow at turn 7 into turn 8. That's not a normal passing situation, but he got a great run out of turn 6 at the bottom of the hill and through the first part of the S's. So now the Elantra leads the number 98 car through the final corner and onto the finish straight. Now we've seen this happen before, but the Elantra has not been able to hold on. Now in fairness, it was the Van der Steur car that kept fighting back in the past. What can Tanner Maxon do in the Copeland version of the same car? Behind him now he has a similar vehicle. It's another one of those eggshell blue. That's the N colour for the performance variants of the Hyundais. And N is their, if you will, their sport line up to Hyundai. And they're bringing out a sport crossover as well with the little four-wheel drive, getting the N treatment, and down the inside goes the number 77, and Lewis then takes over second position. So it's the two works coloured cars for Brian Herter Autosport. Next up is the number 33, same colourway, but again the same as the lead car. With half an hour to go, the Brian Herter Autosports cars, Jeremy, just cycling to the front. But I like the fact that the Unitronic Audi and Ryan Eversley in the Atlanta Speedworks Audi and Honda respectively are sitting in behind those four Hyundais. That's not over yet. Absolutely not. In fact, Taylor and Eversley, they've closed up. They were not very far behind, but they're now pretty much in a nose-to-tail train. Those top 6 cars in TCR. There's 4 Hyundais, an Audi and a Honda, and I wouldn't like to pick a winner from here. Absolutely not. Now the battle for second. Whatever was going on with Kuno Wittmer, he's not got the pace, or he's running into a fuel number in that McLaren, because he's got Jan Heylen and Trent Hindman now right up his tailpipes as the leader. Matt Plum has now stretched to just over 2 seconds as an advantage. They're coming out of the carousel and through turn 13 onto the finish straight now, and off. Oh, that's the number 40 Pesek Mustang, the PF machine, and that's had contact with something solid. It's at turn 9, just on the entrance to Thunder Valley, and he's looped it to the inside. Meantime, the battle for what is third position continues at the keyhole, and it's Porsche versus Aston Martin. How good is it to say that, by the way? And the vault car of Trent Hindman, 2 drive-throughs completed, of course, with the safety car, managed to stay on the same lap. They're side drafting each other down in the braking area for turn 4, and somehow Jan Heylen manages to stay ahead, and somehow also the number 40 car is actually mobile, staying on the grass to driver's right in Thunder Valley, and that bright pink machine is heading back towards the pits. It's Chad McCumbee who is driving it. He's done a cracking job. He's off the racing surface, but he's going to have to rejoin, of course, when he gets to the uber quick turn 11. I'm not sure he's going to get that back to the pits. And as tough as Ford are built, I'm not sure he's getting any further from there, Jeremy, and that will have to be a safety car to remove that vehicle safety. I don't think it's safe enough for him to drive at that speed through turn 11, which is well, turn 10 really, and then turn 11, which is super quick, and there's no run off to the right hand side, which is where he is on the track. Time at the keyhole.
You're going to work fairly hard to hit something on the right hand side of the track, but you hook a wheel on the outside, and it's not that difficult. So, but I wonder whether there was some sort of contact there, because number 40 car of Chad McCumbee had been embroiled in quite a big battle with number 56 Murillo Mercedes of Eric Foss. We didn't see, I don't think, did we, what caused that spin?
Full course yellow.
But yeah, number 56 car's just come into the pit lane, by the way, so I fancy those two might have got together.
Yeah, 56 and 93 incident under review. Well, that was the 40. The 56 is the Murillo racing car. The car bomb with Peregrine is the 93, and the 40 car was the one that stuck out there. So maybe it was a 3-car incident, Jeremy, or either that, or it was 2 separate incidents.
The number 40 and 56 were pretty much tied together. Number 93 car was several seconds behind them a couple of laps previously, so I wouldn't have thought it had closed in that fast. So I don't know, more to that than meets the eye, I think. But as you say, full course caution it is, and this is going to help a lot of teams and drivers who are perhaps hoping to get to the end without needing another pit stop.
EMR rapid response vehicle already at the scene. Our thanks, whilst things go quieter at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, to all of our volunteers. See if we can work out what happened. I think the 40 spun on its own and clipped the back of the 56. The 93 wasn't involved at all in that, as you said, Jeremy. As I thought, going over the top of the rise at turn 9, the Chad McCumbee driven Mustang got light, spun to the inside. That's a classic accident there. And as he was completely sideways, trying to stop himself having an accident, didn't actually hit the wall on driver's right, but as he was completely sideways, poor Eric Foss came over the top of the rise. He wouldn't have been able to see very much at all. Had to pick a side, went to the right-hand side, and so nearly got through. But the spinning bright pink Mustang just clipped the left rear of that car, ripped the front off the Mustang, and has done some damage to the back. But the 93, I don't see as being involved in at least that part of the incident. Something might have happened later on in the lap that race control want to look at. This is terrible news for Matt Plum, who built up 2 seconds of a lead, Jeremy. So he's going to be slightly cursing under his breath as he's behind the Honda TLS Type S, for whom we have the weekend named Acura Sports Car Challenge, presented by TLX Type S at Mid-Ohio. It looks rather spiffy in its flip gold, green, etc. paint. So the TCRs will get the wave by. Is it worth a pit stop here, Jeremy? And who takes the pit stop? Or are we going to get enough yellow, do you think, by the time we've recovered the Pesek Ford, PF Racing Ford, to stretch the fuel to the end? It's a tough call, isn't it?
I think it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah.
If you another caution, they might be able to get to the end, and I'm not sure you're right at this stage. To be perfectly honest, it's hard to say.
Pits haven't opened yet, by the way.
I think they're going to need to make a pit stop. Most of the GS cars, TCRs, I think should be fine now, particularly with this caution period. But except for the cars that came in early in TCR, which there were a couple, I think they came in a little earlier than everybody else.
I tell you what, Jeremy, it's going to be close. We've got 37 laps by most of the cars in GS before the first caution, and that 37 laps included a couple of laps of yellow at the end of that stint before the pits opened. Matt Plum might be out of luck here because safety car lights are out already. So we are so the pits, I think, Shea, are not going to open. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, we're within the last 30 minutes of the race when the full course caution came out. So that means that race control reserves the right to do a short yellow, no pits open. We do the class split and the wave by, and then we go back racing.
I reckon 12 laps at full speed, possibly only 11 depending when we get to the end of this. That will give us 28. That's going to give us 40 laps for Matt Plum. It's going to be tight, even with a couple of laps of yellow. Everybody else, it's going to give them, guess what, 37, which is exactly what they did in the first part of the race with 2 laps of yellow involved in that first part. Now, we've had 2 laps of yellow already here. Matt Plum had 5 laps of yellow at the beginning, so he's going to have had 7 laps of yellow. I tell you what, this is tight. You're all I mean, you're not going to give up, are you? Surely you're not going to give up a lead position here until the fuel light comes on, Jeremy. If you're further back and you think it's tight, then maybe you dive in for a splash and go full at it, but you're going to lose so much time here. It's a short lap.
Yeah, you know, if you think you can make it to the end, then yes, you'll stretch it.
Jeremy, we could be looking at cars running out of fuel in the last laps again here. You know that, don't you? Oh, the Michelin Pilot Challenge never fails to deliver. We're about to go back to green flag racing, just under 19 laps to go. If you are just joining us this Saturday evening, what a cracking time to rejoin as Matt Plum restarts with the green flag at the finish line. Gets a decent start, but here's the speed of the McLaren. Kuno Whitmer then, who'd lost a wee bit of pace in the second, third perhaps of his run, and 1, 2, 3 across the track as they head up the hill to the keyhole. Plum's got the good line, the optimum line there. He didn't feel the need to defend and lays a bit of Michelin rubber coming out of the keyhole that time around with Whitmer, Halen, Hinman, Piggott and Alex Udell as well, right there as well. And here comes the speed of the McLaren. Jeremy's been talking about it all day. Goes to driver's left, that's the outside for turn 4, but the lighter on its feet, although it looks like a bigger car, the Camaro brakes much later and takes way more speed to the apex of turn 4, despite it being on a slightly defensive line. Good driving by Matt Plum. Hinman looking very, very attentive as well at the back of that 4-car train for the lead. Camaro, McLaren, Porsche, and then Trent Hinman in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, and the Chevrolet that's leading this race, compare the weight of that car to the McLaren. The McLaren is 100 kilos lighter.
Wow,
1405
that's me.
for Bradley. Yeah, well, it's 1405 is the McLaren, and the Chevrolet is 1510.
Wow. So that is literally my weight in that car. We'll keep an eye on the battle for third because Trent Hinman is pressurising Jan Halen, who immediately stayed to the defensive line. The inside line now drifts back across to the racing line. I think that's all right. Hinman's going to try Buffalo Gals round the outside of the keyhole, gets onto the grass and kicks up dust with the left-hand side Michelins. He can't make that one work. These two are dropping away from the leading pair at the moment, and again Whitmer goes to the outside and again gets the bright yellow nose of the McLaren ahead for a picosecond and took the lead until they got to the braking area, and then Matt Plum just took it back again and immediately from turn 5 to 6 pulls out the car's length maybe a wee bit more. Well, there's penalties coming for improper pass arounds, and also we've got Spencer Piggott closing in on this leading quartet. The white with green fronted motorsport in action, the Mia McLaren is coming, and it's bringing Alec Udell behind that car as well in the Winwood Racing number 57 that was started by Bryce Ward. I'll take a breath and Shea will give you a VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report, including some notes on penalties.
Well, it was incident responsibility for the 56 Murillo Racing Mercedes with the 93 Audi. So we didn't see it, but race control did. That was a drive-through penalty for Eric Foss. The improper pass round, stop, and 3 minutes. It's for the 19 driven by Dennis Dupont. That's the Van der Steur TCR Hyundai that was doing so well in the opening stint. Well, they've dropped down the field as is anyway. With 3 more minutes, that's really going to hurt their final. Oh, no, it's not. They are last in class anyway. Never mind.
Well, commentary team, don't forget, we have got to pick our Michelin moment of the race in both classes, so start thinking about that right now as we have a new leader down towards turn 4. This time it does get done, and Kuno Wittmer's a wee bit later on the brakes, and the McLaren goes to the lead. The AWA yellow and dark grey McLaren. Fantastic manoeuvre. It's been planned for a couple of laps now, and change of position as well for, no, that's Ryan Norman. So the 3 Velosters in Brian Herter colours, 2 Velosters in Brian, 2 Hyundais in Brian Herter colours. I'll get it out in a moment. Are still first and second, and the 93 Carbon Audi's off at turn 9 and has to find somewhere to feed back in from driver's left. Oh, goodness gracious. It's all happening now with under 15 minutes to go, Jeremy.
Yeah, costly for number 93 car. Tom Dyer was up in the 9th place, having set the fastest lap of the race, but he's got a lot of ground to make up now. But this battle in TCR is going on. We see now Jan Hayden looking to the inside of Matt Plummer up in the keyhole, not able to make that swing. Trent Henderson, okay, in that case I'll go all the way around the outside. Boy, great racing here. McLaren, I think, is off now to the races, but everybody else is racing hard behind them. And in TCR, by the way, Ryan Eversley did get past Mark Wilkins on the last lap, so the Honda in amongst that phalanx of Hyundais is up into the 4th position now.
Yeah, he split the second Elantra from the rest of the herd of Hyundais, hasn't he? I do need to. I think we need to keep an eye on Kuno Wittmer, because he had great pace at the start of his stint, but that fell away later on, as if the car was good early, and the car's getting lighter, of course, I suppose, so that will help him. He's got a second on the field at the moment. I'm going to say right now, my nomination for Michelin moment of the race is going to be Joe Vardy bringing the TGM car in. Whatever the result is, that's transformed the results possibility for that car, and without the second yellow flag would probably have given him the victory. But I liked what he did. He saw the opportunity. That's going to be my nomination for moment of the race in GS. I'll leave you to think about GS and TCR for our Michelin moment of the race. Oh, 3 across the track going into the keyhole, and Spencer Piggott has got a grandstand view as our mobile cameraman, as he watches that, and now sits in behind the Volt Aston Martin. Oh, the Unitronics Audi going slowly down the back straight. What a shame. They've had a great run. And the Unitronic JDC Miller car, Mikey Taylor behind the wheel, has dropped way down in TCR, the 13th position. That car was right at the very sharp end, led the race early on. 12 minutes to go, and there's Hinman has taken the inside rear wheel of Hugh Plum at turn 6. And that, I think, is going to have a penalty. Plum can't find a forward gear at the moment. Oh, slight misjudgment by Trent. That's very unusual for him. He wasn't there, tried to back out of it, I think. Might have even locked up. Looks down the inside. No, he's not there. He's not there at all. And through goes Spencer Piggott. And also right in behind there is the Winward Racing Alex Udell car. And that will gain at least a position. Trent was trying for the opportunist manoeuvre there, Jeremy, and couldn't get. I think he's got damage as well on the Aston. Yes, he has. He's not going to get that car back. He's got steering damage. He's struggling. Well, he might actually now get that car back, but he's got left front steering arm damage. That's 2 of the leading GS cars out of the race, or at least out of the fight at the front of the field, and that split things up, Jeremy, at the front.
Yeah, very much so it has. Yeah, that was a very, I would say, uncharacteristic error there from Trent Hinman that is going to...
No, he hasn't got it back to the pits.
Road.
Hasn't got it back to the pits because he can't turn the wheels because the left front wheel isn't connected to the steering rack. He's going to give it another go.
Caution, I think, isn't it?
The right front wheel, he's going to shuffle it backwards and forwards. But I think the left front wheel is ploughing its own furrow at the moment. Yeah, it is. It's not connected at all. So coming through turn 11, he couldn't get the car to turn left. He might be able to do a little bit of shuffle. When you drive backwards, the wheel straightens up because of the way the caster and the camber works on the car. And I wonder if he's going to just park that car out of the way to keep us green. So that's heads up. If the mistake was an error of judgment, if he can get that car behind the barriers in some way, shape or form, that is actually pretty heads up driving from Trent. And we stay green with 9.5 minutes to go, Jeremy.
Indeed we do. So yeah, as you say, very heads up driving there for Hinman to get that car out of the way and keep it under green, because this battle is going to carry on now in TCR. Ryan Evans, he's up in the third position. He's got ahead of the car he's battling. One of the further cars has fallen back a little bit, isn't it? Which was actually very interesting. No, it's a big one. He's found a way past Tyler Max into third place. He's now got a bit of a gap to make up as Ryan Evans. In that Atlantis, he works on them, or he can get on to Hyundai's Lancia Van Erman, and the older the lost Michael Lewis.
And by the way, whatever else has happened, race control have seen that incident between Trent Hinman and Matt Pombo, and it is a full course yellow, but the 7 car has been assessed a penalty. Now you might think, what's the point of that? It's parked at the side of the road, but that sends a message that we saw that, it's not acceptable. This is not apportioning blame, but it is apportioning responsibility for the incident, and that's why that has happened. So we're going to get a couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes of dash for cash. Jan Heelan's just put the fastest lap of the race in as the full course caution comes out. 1:27.6. So he was off in pursuit of Kuno Whitmer, but he's going to be right up the tailpipes of the AWA McLaren. Oh, all kinds of passing going on across the start-finish line. So have we not gone yellow?
Stayed green.
Right. Mistake on the timing screen there, as off goes... Oh, Alec Yadel's gone off and just about saves the...
No, that's the 11.
No, that's... Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, you're right, Shay. That's the FCP Euro car that went off at turn 1 and bounced across the track. So no full course yellow. Scratch that. But what a wild moment. Right across the curb at turn 1. And Nate Vincent, well, we've seen some nasty accidents there. He rejoined through the cutout, and that's quite a severe jump there. So that car was off the ground. So staying green flag with under 7 minutes to go. A second is the gap at the head of the field. Almost identical lap times, Jeremy, at the front of the field last time around between Kuno Whitmer and Jan Heelan.
Yeah, this is game on, isn't it? And there's only 6.5 minutes remaining in this race, so looks like they aren't going to be able to get to the end. At least they think they are. Yeah, that's all very interesting indeed. And you know, it's been a tremendous race all the way through it. And Kuno Whitmer has about a second over Jan Heelan. Both of them turned their fastest laps of the race a couple of laps ago. So it's absolutely flat out here to finish. Clearly, the leaders are not trying to save any fuel. And if they haven't been doing it now, it's too late. So they don't think they can get to the end of the race without being smashed.
Well, all of the cars that are in positions first down to 8th at the moment, their teammates did 37 laps or thereabouts with a little bit of help at the start of the race. So I think they can do it. Sorry?
Plus it was caution.
Yes, exactly, with a couple of laps of caution. They've had caution at the start of their stint. I think we're going to be looking at a 36, 37 lap stint for Whitmer and Jan Halen and Udell and Piggott and Foley and Davis. I think they can get there. It's going to be tight. It'll be a bit squeaky for them at the sharp end of the field. But what about TCR? Ryan Norman and Mikey Lewis battling it out in the front of the field, and then another battle further back down. But at the front of the field, Jan Helen's not done, and Kuno Whitmer is being caught ever so slightly. It's under a second now, and here's what we were talking about earlier on, Jeremy. We saw Kuno Whitmer tear off when he first got in that car, and he tore off after the full course yellow, but the pace of that car slowed, and he was caught in his chase of what was then the leader Matt Plum. And I just wonder if that pace is going away from the AWA McLaren. Not much, but it doesn't need to be much, does it?
No, it doesn't need to be much. You're absolutely right there. And we've got some GS cars in amongst the TCRs here now, which isn't going to make things any easier for them. Nate Vincent is in the middle of that pack in the number 11 FCP Euro Mercedes. He's got the two Brian Herder cars ahead of him, Ryan Norman and Michael Lewis. Right behind him is Ryan Eversley and also Tyler Maxson, who's staying pretty much with Ryan Eversley. Mark Wilkins is trying to make that a battle as well, and also not far behind him is John Morley in car number 61. That's a road shagger Audi. Had some problems early on in this race. John Morley basically stays in San Francisco, but I'm sure he's from the Columbus area. I think remember back in Barbados days, I'm sure he's from Columbus, so this is kind of a homecoming for John Morley, and he'll be hoping to move up. He's currently in the 6th position, which has been a really good run for him. He's made his way up through the order, and we've still got, 3.5 minutes to go, so another couple or 3 laps.
That's a great drive back by Roadshagger after they were attacked early on, and off the circuit when Gav was driving that car. That is a really good drive. Another fastest lap of the race from Jan Halen, and the gap at the front of the field is down to just on half a second. Not that now. Jan Helen's got targeted quiet, and if Kuno Whitmer was in a fighter jet, he would be hearing torn at the moment, because he has been locked onto by second place Jan Helen. Oh my goodness, this is phenomenal, Jeremy.
Fractionally outside the lap record, 27.3 Alec Udell's lap record, 27.369 last time around for Halen. They're coming across the line now. Kuno Whitmer, he just said his last lap was only a gnat's whisker away from his fastest lap of the race, so he is very much on here. We've got 2 minutes 20 remains, so 2 laps remaining in this race.
So the Michelin moment for both classes. We'll stick our heads together and work that one out for TCR and for GS. I wonder if we've got a bit of team orders in Brian Herter at the moment, because they're just holding their positions right now. The lead has just stretched out a tiny bit. .13 McLaren for GS, Chris Green and Ryan Hardwick at turn 1. That was a good pass, no doubt about that. That's the leading car with KWA at the moment, AWA, excuse me. Hearing there's no team orders from BHA, race cleanly. At the front of the field, here comes Jan Halen. It will be the white flag this time by, and Halen, well, he's got just over 2.25 miles. He looks down the inside at the carousel. Where does he have the advantage? I'd say the twisty bits. The McLaren is still very quick in a straight line. White flag is out. Down to turn 1. Just over 2.25 miles to go. Kuno Whitmer. What a great drive by both of the team members in both of these cars. Wright Motorsport, what a comeback from Ryan Hardwick, who got the pole position and drove super brilliantly well in the first part of the race, through the keyhole. Now the McLaren, this is advantage McLaren now, from the top of the hill down to turn 4. Pulls out 1 car's length, 2 cars length, 3 cars length, 5 cars length through the kink. But now, from here at the braking point at turn 4, this is where Haaland comes in. It's going to have to be, I think, at the carousel, the final corner. He's got to somehow throw the car up the inside. Oh, maybe he's got a chance at 6. No, he's not close enough. Not close enough, but here he comes. My goodness, what a performance differential. 2 different cars, both mid-engined. The low-slung McLaren and the Porsche Cayman with the flat 6. Little bit of wheel spin there from Jan Haaland coming out in 9. That's not helping his cause. He got a tiny bit sideways. Don't think he's going to be able to do this. It'll have to be a real lunge down the inside, and surely Colonel Whitner won't give him that position. Coming to the line for the Michelin Pilot Challenge at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. It will be a win for McLaren and AWA by half a second from Wright Motorsport. Winward Racing, the 57 car, started by Bryce Ward. Alec Udell comes through onto the podium in 3rd position from Spencer Piggott. Motorsport in action in 4th. Then Robbie Foley for Turner Motorsport, the remaining Turner Motorsport car. Then it's McCann Racing. What a good result for them in 6th position in the Audi. Indy Johnchi, after a torrid run for the number 7 Winward car, actually net 7. What about TCR? It's going to be another Hyundai benefit, isn't it? As Ryan Norman will take the checkered flag for Brian Herder Autosports number 98 car. The 77 comes through in 2nd, so Elantra from Veloster, and that is by far the new car's best finish. They've had a best only of 6th before this weekend, and now they go to the top of the podium. In 3rd, Ryan Eversley brings the Atlanta Speedworks number 94 Honda in to split up the hordes of Hyundais. Tyler Maxson for Copeland Motorsport, and then the 33 Elantra in 5th position. What a drive back by John Morley from Road Shagger Racing into 6th position. Well, brilliant stuff, Jeremy.
That, but right behind John Morley also was Tim Lewis in the Alfa Romeo, staying very much under the radar screen, and Matt Pombo right together with him as well. So
Matt Pombo with the fastest lap of the TCR race as well, by the way, for that car. So a 28.8 for
that is
that
a new
car.
lap record by a chunk. Actually, the old record was a 29.7 by Michael Lewis. So that was a stellar lap there from Matt Pombo in the closing stages.
Well, fantastic run.
A while ago.
Fantastic run from all of those that I've mentioned, and plenty beyond that as well. Michelin moments of the race, please, Shea and Jeremy. TCR is going to be a tough one, so I'm going to leave that till last. Ryan, Trent Hinman looking at the damage on the left front of the Aston Martin, the Volt Racing by Archangel car. Got assessed a penalty for that. Incident responsibility with Matt Pombo. He's going to have to say sorry to those guys. They finished, Matt Plum, excuse me, they finished down in 11th for Team TGM. And that was my Michelin moment of the race, the call to get in the pits. It's not always about the drivers. So Joe Vardy for the Team TGM. Are we relatively agreed on that one, Shea?
I have to agree with Rob. This was AWA's race to lose, and they declared that they were going to win it right off the bat with that pass on lap 2, Chris Green going around the outside of Brian Hardwick into turn 1. That did it for me.
Yeah, the different strategy as well, it's paid off for that car. I mean, yes, it's been fast, but hasn't got the fastest lap of the race, and it was an excellent performance by AWA. My vote has to be them. For the number 46 team, yeah, it was a great call to come in. Everybody had the opportunity to do so, and that they were running in 2nd place at that point in any case, so it really didn't make any difference ultimately, I don't think, to the number 46 team's race. So an excellent performance and very, very well deserved for Andrew Wojciechowski's AWA team. Well done to those guys.
Yeah, and nice to see Oris Fadani's name on that car in victory circle. All right, Chris Green then takes the Michelin moment of the race for GS for that outstanding pass early on in the race. TCR throw a dart at their dartboards. Shay, what do you reckon?
It's been a rough weekend for the Atlanta Speedworks team. They started on, well, they should have been starting on pole, but due to a technical infraction, they were moved to the back of the class. How about Ryan Eversley sneaking up into the third position to take the final step of the podium and bringing Honda a little bit of pride when they are so close to the Honda plant in Marysville, Ohio. That's a pretty cool weekend for them.
Yeah, good opening stint from Scott Smithson as well there. First win for the Atlanta, Elantra, Ryan Norman's home track, of course. So that's a big moment for them. The drive back by Road Shagger and John Morley did a good job. Jeremy, TCR, Michelin moment of the race?
Yeah, I mean, Perm, one I'm not going to argue with what anybody else comes up with, quite frankly. I don't think there were any strategic master calls there. So
quite similar tactically, wasn't it?
I'll go along with whatever anybody else comes up.
I think we're. It's not a moment. I accept it's not a moment, but certainly getting that Honda up into the podium. Let's give it to Atlanta Speedworks. We'll take the moment of the race for splitting the hordes of Hyundais at the sharp end of the field. So congratulations to Atlanta Speedworks and to AWA for the Michelin moment of the race. They'll get a set of racing tyres courtesy of Michelin from the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre team. Well, sum that one up in a few words. Jeremy Shaw.
Brilliant. Just great racing, tremendous race, and you know, anybody could have won that race. It looked like it was wonderful to see McLaren, Porsche, Mercedes all right in the thick of the battle. You know, nothing to choose between any of them, it seems. Hats off once again to the IMSA technical team, and that was a lot of fun.
Jeremy, work out some points if you can quickly. Shea, Adam, plenty going on in the pit lane there. Rather more penalties than we would have liked to have seen, but plenty of action on the track where it matters.
Yeah, really good passing, some really not good passing attempts. There were penalties aplenty. It was a busy race for just 2 hours. It feels like much longer than that.
I feel like I can take a breath now, Jeremy. What have you got with the championship points? Unofficial at this point. Let's start with GS.
GS coming into this weekend, second in the points. Kuno Whitmer will, with the victory, the second win of the year for Kuno. They also won at Daytona along with Ori Fadani, so he will lead on 920 points, I reckon. 920 after 3 races, ridiculous, isn't it? Second position, 800. It sounds like it's a huge difference. It's actually not. But Robbie Foley and Vin Barletta, who came away with a 5th place finish here today. An excellent run by Robbie Foley and Vin, who started that car. Third position in the points will be Russell Ward on 780.
Oh, wow.
4th position, I think, Sheena Monk and Spencer Piggott on 730, just ahead of Bill Oberlin and Dylan McAvan, who had that awful early end to their day, and the former championship leaders.
And in TCR, Jeremy, quickly?
In TCR, it was Taylor Hagler and Michael Lewis who came in with the points lead and will stretch that. It was 20 points. It's now a 40-point advantage over Ryan Eversley in second place.
Shay, let's go to a VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock interview with, I think, Brian Hurd at Autosports. Go ahead, Shay.
First race win for the Elantra comes at Ryan's home track for Ryan Norman and Parker Chase. And Parker's first ever TCR win. How good does it feel to get that monkey off the back?
It feels good. This is my first win in a TCR car for Brian Hurd Autosport, and I'm happy to deliver the first Elantra win as well. You know, 2 years ago, this is the place that Herta won for the first time at the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, so it feels good to deliver the first one for the Elantra here as well.
Parker. It's Hindhoff in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre here. That was just 2 hours of absolutely bonkers racing at the sharp end of TCR. Did you actually take any breaths at all in your first stint?
No, not really. It was quite hectic. You know, me and Harry and Roy Vanderster were battling back and forth. You know, it seems like every lap we were changing positions. But we all kept it clean, kept the cars clean, and in the end we brought home the win.
And in terms of what was going on, that no team orders at Brian Hurt at Autosport, so that was genuine racing, whether it was with another manufacturer, another car, or your teammates?
Yep, that's correct. There's no team orders. You know, we were all racing, but it was all clean racing, so that's good. And you know, we like to keep it as to few team orders as possible, and just let us have fun.
And what was worse then, being in the thick of that action at the start of the race in your stint, or watching it all unfold on the pit wall when you couldn't do anything in the second part of the race?
I'd have to say that the second half watching was worse than driving for sure. You know, Michael Lewis was coming fast, and I didn't know if Ryan was going to be able to hold him off or not, to be honest. But he did a good job, and you know, kept him behind him.
Onward to the next one. Pass on our best to Brian and the rest of the team. Smashing result, particularly for Ryan, who's from these parts. And we wish you all the best. I have a suspicion there might be a party in the offing.
It's possible. Thank you very much.
It's possible, says Parker Shares. Excellent stuff in that VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report. Jeremy, a final word from you.
Just it was a great day all the way around, wasn't it? I mean, just tremendous racing, and super to see the apparent equality between the different manufacturers here in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. So, start to finish, tremendous motor race.
And we will be doing it all again with more racing action Sunday, tomorrow, with plenty more in sound and vision at IMSARadio.com. In the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, Jeremy Shaw and me, John Hindhoff, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter, Shea Adam. We couldn't have done it any of this without our colleagues at NASCAR Productions up at Charlotte. Alicia and the team, thank you very much indeed. And Rob Lomas was doing all of the technical stuff back in London to get us to speak to the world. Our responsible adult, as ever, Eve Hewitt. That was a great Michelin Pilot Challenge race from mid-Ohio. What a great way to finish off Saturday. And we've got Sunday still to come. No day of rest for us. It's more racing. Bye-bye.